Hello and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Fuel community. My name is Wack. Today is May 13th and today's episode has some really cool information in it, really cool information in it. We're going to be talking about rETH opportunities that you can use on DeFi. We're going to be talking about client updates that are mandatory that will come through. On the Ethereum side, there's some really cool information. We're going to be talking about Enshrined native rollups. We're going to be choosing who Robinhood chose for their on-chain work. We're going to be talking about some people buying ETH and just amazing stuff. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Okay, as always, we're going to start here with Rocket Pool news. And the Rocket Pool news that we're starting today with is PDAO and IMC Treasury reports. So Vaca here has an update on the Treasury report saying this period the PDAO budget changed from 28.5% to 27.5% because that extra 1% went to the ODAO. This is in order to increase the ODAO share from 1.5% to 2.5% as voted by the PDAO. It says the PDAO reserve received 6,455 RPL from inflation. Its balance is now 86,000 RPL. This period the IMC also received its first recurring payment as voted and executed by the newly fledged PDAO snapshot. Since it can only distribute fixed values, the IMC has received an average of its next 9 payments, which is 11,024 RPL. And the GMC has received 4,486 RPL and also had its recurring payment approved starting next period. So that was a nice update from Vaca for the PDAO Treasury. That 86,183 RPL. That's a nice amount, and hopefully the value of that will go up soon. Okay, and then we had Samus here with an IMC report for period 35 and the period 36 budget. As has been the case for the last few months, the IMC's budget spending cut has kept things in order. We had around 11,000 RPL of inflows and 11,000 RPL of outflows. So inflow is slightly lower than budget due to implementation of RPIP 68, which increased the ODAO share. And then the budgeting summary, so balance change saw 0.65% change from 3.54 thousand RPL to around 3,500 RPL. So extrapolated, there's no zeroing out budget because we have a balanced budget. And for the budget 36, so PancakeSwap is changing its tokenomics and shut down the gauges. There's more information at this link, and IMC is still evaluating how to move forward, but is skipping the first fortnight spend that used to go towards PancakeSwap, which will provide a surplus for this period. So about 30% change in balance from around 3,500 RPL to 4,600 RPL. There's currently a placeholder highlighted in yellow, but it's expected to be spent elsewhere by the second fortnight. And the price impact data, it says a drop in liquidity towards the end of April, but still within a similar range as the previous year. And then there's information as well if you want it. So that's a really cool update from Samus. Thank you, Samus. I guess the next one we're looking forward to is the GMC's report, and I'm not sure when that's coming. Okay, we have some updates from stakerocketpool.eth, and this is the using rETH in DeFi update. So with Uniswap and Optimism, you can now earn up to 45.31%, and this is with the USDM stablecoin with the, I think it's a revenue generating stablecoin, pair with rETH can give you 48.64% yield now, which is pretty cool. And then there's a lot more numbers here as well. You can get about 4% on Uniswap on Optimism with rETH ETH pair, and you can get about 3.7% with rETH Anchor ETH on Balance Optimism as well. And then here there's some nice numbers. There's a Gamma with 4.73%, Balancer, and that's on mainnet with rETH wrapped ETH, which is of course the ETH from EtherFi. And then just straight holding rETH in the last 30 days average has been 2.65%. And if you've been holding it since the merge, then it's 3.471% returns on your rETH on average. So yeah, there's some interesting opportunities there for you all to use if you want to chase those. Okay, moving on to some staking news, and here we have an update from Prism, and this is about a client version 6.6.0.2. And this is a patch release to fix a few important bugs. Most importantly, we have adjusted the index limit for field tries in the beacon state to better support Pectra states. This should alleviate memory issues that clients are seeing since Pectra mainnet fork. And then there's some information about what's been added, what's been changed, and you can have a look at that if you are on Prism. Then you can check that out and get that information. And here in the Rocket Pool Discord, we had an update from Fornax. Yeah, and then Fornax says an important update for all Prism users today. Prism just released 6.0.2, which is a patch fixing important bugs. So you go and check that out. And yeah, it fixes memory issues that some clients are seeing. So yeah, check that out if you're having issues with your validators running Prism, because yeah, obviously you don't want those memory issues because your nodes, can not perform to their best extent. Okay, next we're going to move on to some Ethereum news, and here we're going to start with this ETH researcher thread where the discussion is about Enshrined native L2s and stateless block building. So it says scaling Ethereum with Enshrined native L2s and stateless block building. So it says that basically with the L2s, this is in the post, I'll argue that we can scale Ethereum by creating L2 systems deeply integrated into Ethereum's protocol, sharing its validator set to process transactions in parallel. This is a novel invention, but a refinement of existing ideas, leveraging validators not active in layer 1 duties through concepts such as orbit to scale throughput horizontally. So this is very much the based and native rollup design, but it looks like there's some tweaks going on over here. And then the core concept here is that the enshrined native L2s extend Ethereum's validator set beyond L1 duties. So there'll be new duties open for layer 1 validators. Currently it says 31 out of 32 validators are not really actively useful for Ethereum. Ideally we want a system that can ensure as much of the network is productively leveraged as possible. We can take validators not proposing or testing on layer 1 and shift them to L2s with their commitments there. Yeah, it says that we could have committees of 96 validators per L2 with 16 validators assigned to fossil, proposing duties, and the rest are testing. Just like the L1, we would expect a supermajority of the L2's stake to attest to the new block for it to be accepted and finalized. So there's shared security, there's horizontal scaling, and it says that then there's necessity for stateless block building and like the way that works and why it matters. And then there's some trade-offs as well with validator committee size versus throughput. There's Verkle tree or equivalent levels stored by validators. There's bandwidth and throughput gains, and there's validator transition speed. So there's some trade-offs there as well. And then the reason why this matters is that native block space is an issue. So enshrined L2s create massive increase of native block space, allowing Ethereum to scale horizontally. This is a key differentiator from other L2s that rely on external validators. Then there's bandwidth offset. So yes, stateless witnesses increase bandwidth, but ideally the increase in native block space via L2 can far outpace this. And then you can have local fee markets as well. So it says with enshrined L2s, we can create local fee markets, preventing demand on one app from impacting simple payments from being practical everywhere. Enshrined L2s could receive a fee allotment of blob space or have a variety of other fee mechanisms and or issuance mechanisms to find reasonable balance for how this works. So there's going to be a lot of work that will lead to this happening, but it seems like people are quite supportive of this, and it looks like it's going to be an interesting topic of research. And like I said, there's already work being done on native and base rollups, and the ultrasound rollup vision. So I think it's going to be really, really cool, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this and other research in this area goes. Okay, so on Rocket Fuel a few days ago, I was talking about Robinhood and about how they're looking at coming on chain with their business. And they are, there was talk going around whether they're going to choose Ethereum or Solana for, the most of their on-chain work. And it looks like we have a decision that's been made. So the Watch Guru here broke the news saying Robinhood acquires Canada's leading crypto trading platform, WonderFi. So WonderFi is an L2 built on Ethereum, of course, using ZK technology. We got some interesting takes here. One of them was from Bread, who you might know as one of the people involved in Mega ETH. And he says, look like Robinhood Robinhood chose ZK Sync over Arbitrum or Solana. They bought a company with an L2 for $187 million from their DEC ZK Sync ecosystem. So I think it's on their Elastic chain, and it's currently only on testnet. But I guess they're looking towards really building it out. And it says they used Base's 2024 revenues, so income of around $92 million as the value proposition for justifying that $178 million spend. And it says, let's see how it drives value to ETH. Of course, one way that will drive value to ETH is extending ETH's monetary premium, especially if there's DeFi activity that's happening on this Robinhood chain using ETH as the base pair. That would be fantastic. Another one, of course, is just burning blobs and paying for blob fees. So there are a few different ways that this can happen. Of course, it adds to the culture of Ethereum, and someone who really got this is Vivek Raman, who works with Etherealize, of course. And he says, what if institutions want their own L2s that plug into the most secure L1? And now we're seeing this over and over again, right? Like we have seen things, institutions like Sony, Coinbase, of course, Robinhood now, BlackRock have kind of like teased it, and so many others, Alibaba in China, and so many others that I can't even remember right now, that are, looking either deploying or have already deployed their own L2s. And then it says decentralization matters for high value tokenized assets. The chain without downtime actually has the most upside. So then he says, if one chain has these qualities, then he says, will the asset securing the world ledger be worth less than $1 trillion? And of course, the answer is that, of course, it wouldn't be worth less than $1 trillion. Like if the whole world is on that ledger, then any amount of value that's leaked to a token that goes there will be absolutely astronomical. And of course, the more value that is given to that token, the higher that goes. So this is the path towards universal adoption of Ethereum. And what people don't realize is just how important network effects are and how important deep liquidity is. Because if you have, 5 organizations building on one platform, the sixth one that comes along, they're going to have a decision to make, right? They're going to say, are we going to build on another platform, or are we going to build on the same one as the other 5? Now, why would they choose the other 5? They would want the place that has the deepest liquidity. They would want the place that has the most security, the most decentralization, the knowledge that this is completely neutral, completely censorship resistant. There's no way of giving preferential treatment to one company over another. All of those values, I think, are the thing that really sets Ethereum apart. And the more and more of these organizations that pick Ethereum, then the higher ETH goes. So that's what my base thesis is. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm trying to teach people about. And Vivek, of course, is trying to teach the same things to Wall Street. And it honestly looks like they're listening. So yeah, let's see what comes of that. Okay, so just because Vivek's speaking in New York on Wall Street and they're listening, it looks like people around the world are listening too. So the block here had this post about a London-based asset manager that buys nearly $500 million worth of Ether in 6 days. So this is an absolutely astronomical amount of ETH. It's a huge amount of ETH for one organization to be buying. Now, the question you need to ask yourself is what have these guys seen? Obviously, they've seen that Ether is amazing, because that's what we all think. We think Ether is amazing. We think Ethereum is amazing. And on top of that, we really believe that the whole world is going to be built on Ethereum. And in that case, Ether is incredibly valuable. Now, for one entity to be buying now, they really got that belief that when there's fear in the market, that's the time to buy. And recently we've had lows on ratios against BTC and other cryptos as well, and it looked like people were saying ETH is dead and buried, but that was just like retail crypto Twitter sentiment. The reality is that the world's biggest companies with millions and millions of users, we said Facebook, Meta yesterday or the day before, yesterday, and they've got 3.5 billion users that can come on chain. So it's this kind of idea, if you're looking at who's building, who's doing the work, the reality is that it's coming to Ethereum and it's happening on Ethereum. So people who realize that, even though market sentiment was really low, the fundamentals kind of differed in this matter, and I think that's the kind of situation that leads to these huge companies buying ETH when the rest of the market's worried, and then there's consequences of that, right? Like with one entity buying so much ETH, what you've seen is just a few weeks ago, ETH was at $1,380 or so dollars, and since then it's in the last week basically it's just gone on an absolute huge move. So it went from $1,800 all the way up to $2,740 earlier today, and now it's at $2,680. So ETH has just been an incredibly strong performer. It's going up against BTC, the downward trend line has been broken. It's getting stronger against Solana. The trend lines there have been broken as well. So it looks like there's been a shift in market dynamics. Now, I don't know how long this is going to last, or in what way this is going to last, but the reality is that there's something really big going on here. If you just look at market action, it looks like it might be ETH's turn next, and we can hope. But what's really interesting is that in some of the communities that I'm a part of, the sentiment around ETH was really low. Even long-term ETH holders, the sentiment was low, right? It wasn't that there were, some of them had capitulated and thought that other assets would go up faster than ETH, so they swapped out their ETH into other assets. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? But what others did was they were just complaining constantly about price action and how depressing everything was. And what's really funny is in the last week, that's completely changed and everyone's happy now. So yeah, price action kind of has a habit of doing that. But yeah, it's not just ETH that are up. ETH ecosystem tokens are up as well. RPL, I showed that yesterday, is up, and we've got other tokens like EtherFi and a whole bunch of others like Aave that are looking really strong, and there might be the ETH beta play in action. But what's really funny is that just hold ETH. That's the most reasonable advice that you can give to someone, is just hold ETH. So yeah. Okay, we're finally seeing the impact of Pectra on wallets. So Uniswap Labs here saying that introducing one swap clicks. So now live on the Uniswap web app for smart wallets with EIP 5792 support, few clicks, less gas, faster swaps. So this isn't actually the EIP 7702 that was activated in Pectra. This is a slightly different version of it. So what's happening with these 5792 wallets is that you can put the approve and sign into one flow. So what would happen is that you open the transaction, it pops up your wallet, and then you in one flow you just press okay and okay, approve and approve, and then you're done. Instead of the wallet opening, you press okay, then they confirm, and then you do the approval, and it comes up again, you press approve and confirm. It kind of makes that a step shorter. So this is just batching transactions. But what happens is there was some confusion that I had a few days ago as well about how the transaction will be processed. So this EIP 5792 is the one where it will wait block to block. So in the first block, it will do your approval, and then next block, it will do your transaction. Where it's 7702, it will all happen in the same block. It becomes atomic. So yeah, wallets are getting better. They're not getting better fast enough, but I'm hoping that they'll keep getting better, and that would be really good for everyone, because we want Ethereum to be as easy to use as possible and as good as possible, of course. So yeah. Okay, we've got news of Liquity v2 relaunching. So this is Liquity v2. There was a bug in the previous Liquity version, and Liquity is an immutable platform. It's an immutable dApp. So once the contracts are deployed, there is no fixing those contracts. And what's happened here is that Liquity kind of closed down the previous contracts and asked people to withdraw all their money and repay all their loans, etc., get all their collateral back, with the idea that they'll be launching v2. Now v2 is coming on May 19th. So Liquity here is saying that following a 5-week audit contest with 800 plus researchers, multiple re-audits and weeks of testing, Liquity v2 goes live in May 19th. Get your ETH, Lido's wrapped ST ETH, and Rocket Pool's rETH ready. Borrow your own terms with user set rates, mint bold, stake Liquity, and put bold to use. So yeah, this is really, really cool to see. And I really want Liquity to succeed. Once bold is out, it's going to be my stablecoin of choice. And this is, of course, really, really great stuff. So congrats, Liquity team. I can't wait to play around with that. Okay, in some less good news, there were a couple of instances yesterday of hacks that had happened. There was one from ZK Sync. So they had a warning saying the ZK Sync address and the Matter Labs accounts were both compromised. It says don't interact with those accounts or click any links. It says wait for ZK Sync devs account to verify when the account has been reclaimed. And it says we'll quote tweet this tweet when ZK Sync and Matter Labs has been recovered. So Porter here from ZK Sync replied by saying, I can confirm this is accurate. So this was, compromise of the front end of the ZK Sync addresses, which is horrible. We also had this one of Curve Finance, who had their front end compromised of the actual app, which I think is a lot scarier. And this says that seems like Curve.fi DNS may be hijacked, don't interact. And then this says Curve.fi still looks good, but also interact with. They're saying no, don't click on it. It's hijacked, and they don't want you to use it. So I think it might be fixed by now, but please be careful before you interact with any application, because the last thing you want is for your crypto to get drained in that situation. Okay, there's a really fun little NFT kind of game experiment that has been released, and this is DX Terminal, and they've got a mint happening starting on Tuesday earlier today, and it's going to be a 48-hour mint, and you can mint these NFT AI agents, and then there's going to be a 7-day kind of experiment game that is going to be played with them. It costs 0.0125 ETH to mint your agent NFT. And upon doing that, then you can play a game, you get access to the game. So if you're interested in playing the game, go have fun. Some people are really excited about this. So this is when you mint an agent, you birth a unique AI generative NFT character. Each creature includes a persona, PFP, sprite, and in-game simulation experience. And the game starts on Thursday the 15th. So 1 hour after the mint closes. So yeah, this is an open edition. There's no rarity or anything like that. This is just to play the game. There's not, any kind of, they don't expect there to be any kind of secondary market or anything like that. It's just play the game, go have fun, mint some agent NFTs and go enjoy the world through their eyes. But yeah, this seems like a really exciting product, so I thought I'd give it a shout out. Of course, I've not been paid by anyone involved with this, anything like that. Okay, in some other news, the SEC is talking crypto. So this is the official SEC Gov account on Twitter saying Chairman Paul Atkins remarks that the Crypto Task Force Roundtable on Tokenization says the topic of this afternoon's discussion is timely securities are increasingly migrating from traditional or off-chain databases to blockchain-based or on-chain ledger systems. And then it just runs down the comments of Paul Atkins and what he's talking about crypto. What I thought was really interesting here is that the SEC, the Ryan Sean Adams replied saying, we've come a long way from office hours with Gary. Well done, Paul Atkins. So what's the reason why I'm mentioning this is just because it shows such a shift in attitude from the previous SEC administration and the way that they talked about and kind of responded to crypto compared to this current administration and the way they're doing it. It's absolutely night to day difference in their approach. And, this has led to a much more favorable environment for the current crypto companies to kind of just be. So that I thought was really worth mentioning. You can read the comments, I won't go into them, but it's just talking about what their plans are for crypto. So it's really interesting stuff. Okay, and finally, this is some big news here was from Coinbase. And Coinbase I had an actually really nice tweet. It said, as the saying goes, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you. And it says, instead of then you win, it says, then they add you to the S&P 500. So this is news that Coinbase yesterday got added to the S&P 500. And they're now being listed on, they're going to get put into all these ETFs and S&P tracking portfolios and all of this kind of stuff. So this was a huge win for Coinbase. The coin stock actually, let's have a quick look at what it's done. It's up to $259. So it was up 24% today. So yeah, it had a very, very strong day. So if you own Coinbase stock, then congratulations. Your asset did a crypto style move. But it was up nearly $50, basically just around $50 on the day. So from $200 to $250, that's a huge move. So it looks like the market was really happy with Coinbase getting listed on the S&P. Now, what's really interesting here is as well that Coinbase has a lot of their crypto in ETH, 137,000 ETH they hold, which is just a mind-boggling large amount. And now people who are buying, who are going to be forced to buy Coinbase stock through their retirement accounts or portfolio management ETFs or whatever, they are now going to be buying ETH with that. So that's pretty cool to see. So yeah, on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. So thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocketful community. I hope you all have a lovely day ahead, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow. Bye.